I believe we are starting up here. Let's see. Once YouTube gets a hold of it, and then we'll start doing our thing here. Move that just slightly off camera. There we go. All right, so it looks like we are up and running on YouTube. And we're going to go live on Amazon now. And I'm going to start recording locally. Okay, looks like we are ready to go. Okay, so yeah, let me tell you what we're doing today. So we reviewed the ATEM Mini a little while ago, and now we're going to look at the ATEM Mini Pro. This is a hard to get but very affordable live streaming video switcher. And I'm going to be doing a video later this week about the differences between the Pro here and the Mini that we already looked at. The too long didn't read on this is that the Pro has a built-in video encoder and the Mini, the regular Mini, does not. That's the big difference. So this can live stream to YouTube and to other platforms. You can only do one at a time, but you could send it out to one of those multi-streaming services and get it out to as many different places as you want. And then simultaneously, it can also record at the same time it's streaming. So you got that. The other big difference here is that the HDMI port on this will output a multi-viewer. So what you could do is hook a monitor up to it, and I'll show you what this will look like in a minute. You can hook a monitor up to the HDMI port on the back and then see all of the inputs coming in. And then in that instance, you would be outputting your video through the USB port on it. So we're going to play around with all this stuff and see how it works over the next hour or so here. And I was actually waiting on this. This took about a month and a half to arrive after I ordered it because it's in such short supply. We do have some folks joining us. Chanflay98 is here on YouTube. Hot Sauce is back again. Welcome. And Paul Bakewell is here as well. And I'm sure many more of you will be popping in and saying hello. So we're going to unbox it first. And in full disclosure, I paid for this with my own funds. Now the experience here is very similar to what we had on the other one. So you get your little note here telling you to download the instruction manual. But as you know on this channel, we don't need instructions, do we? We know what we're doing. I'm just going to turn the exposure down on this camera a little bit. And then it says software installer. They used to give you an SD card, but you don't need to do that either. You can just download the software, which I'm going to do on my Mac in a minute. Power adapter, and we just have to plug in the right plug for where I am here in the US. Hopefully there is one. Here it is. So we're just going to snap in the US adapter. Boom. And we are ready to go on power. And then we have the device itself. Now what's cool about these things, and you'll see this in a minute, is that it will work out of the box. So if you want to just start switching video, you don't even have to get the computer going with it. You can just plug your sources in and be done with it. So that's pretty cool. So it looks a lot like the other one. The difference, of course, is that it says Pro on it. And then you've got this row of buttons here on the side that's different. So we're going to explore what those buttons do in a few minutes here. Let me just get the rest of this thing opened up. So I'm just going to plug in power first, and I've got to unplug something else. And I just need to make sure that I have something. Yeah, I can unplug this. So we're going to plug in power and get it powered up. And we'll connect up the power here. And then I also need to connect it to the network so we can test out some of the stuff we're going to do a little bit later. Now, it looks like it's flashing here, but that's just the whatever on the LED light here versus my camera up there. So this is not going to flash that way to your eyes. And then if you want to switch video sources, it's super simple. You just push 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you can switch them around. What I'm going to do here, I just got to find the cable, is I'm going to wire this into my streaming system so you can see what the HDMI output is on it. And what I am looking for is the super long HDMI cable. Here it is, coming out from my video system. And hopefully it will just start outputting to it when I plug this cable in. So let me show you the ports in the back here too. So we have, we have Ethernet here, and on this device, Ethernet is more important because if you are going to be streaming from it, you of course need to be connected to your network. So we're going to connect up Ethernet in a minute. USB out plugs into your computer, obviously. They don't give you the USB cable in the box, but this is what you would use to connect to your PC. And then what you can do when you're connected to the PC is it'll actually shoot the video over like it's a webcam. So I'll show you that in a minute as well. But here's your choice. If you want to record locally on the device, then you plug an external hard drive into this. But then you can't get the webcam output. So there's always like a give and a take here. HDMI out, we'll demonstrate that in a minute. These four here are your HDMI inputs. So you have, again, 4 different sources. But in addition to the 4 sources here and the audio that comes in from those sources over HDMI, you have 2 additional mic inputs that you can bring in external audio from a soundboard or something like that. I don't think, though, it supports delay. So the lip syncing is going to be an issue if you're not bringing stuff through your cameras. So I often recommend to people that if you have like an audio board, then have the audio board connect to the camera and then bring the video in through the camera. So I'm just going to connect up the HDMI here. Good. All right, it came up. All right, so what you're going to see here, let me pull up the multi-viewer. Now this was not on the other version. So we didn't have this before. And you won't get this on the other version. So just be aware of that. But that's cool. And you'll see as I start plugging sources in, you'll see things start to light up there. Now I got some questions, which I'll answer real quick. So let's see, Mika Upholstery Tips. Thanks, my friend. I bought the Synology NAS and followed me for the tutorial. Glad that was helpful. Shane and Patrick are here. Zam is here. Ed Smith is here. And Zam wants to know, does it support PoE? It does not support PoE, so you got to plug it in directly to power. That would be cool if it did, though, wouldn't it? Because a lot of these video devices work well with that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug in an input to input 1. I've got my, my PTZ optics camera over there, so we're going to plug that in. And now what you'll see, let me pull up our thing there, is, there you go. So we got one camera up, right? No problem. So let me bring in my Nintendo Switch here, and we're just going to pop that into input 2. And that's what's cool about this, is that you don't need much to get started, right? I mean, look at this. We've got the switch going already. Let me turn on my controller. And the way it's configured right now, wait for the controller to connect. The way it's configured right now is that it's in like this instant switch mode. So program and preview are the same thing. But if I go into the software in a minute and configure it, I can have a preview program and have like a proper switch between the two. But right now, as I push the buttons here, you'll see it switching up there. Let me do a quick overlay so you can get a feel for this. Let's go back into Animal Crossing. I'm just going to have this Animal Crossing thing just kind of running as we go here. And I've got another camera that I can bring into the mix in a few minutes as well. But I think what I want to do first, so you can see how that's working. And what's nice is that we're mixing formats here, so, and I'll move the camera around a little bit. So this is 1080p 30, and the switch here is 1080p 60, so it's able to kind of get things into the same thing. Now, there's some buttons here. I should probably, let me do this real quick. I'm going to make a multi-viewer. I should have started that before we began, because I want to show you the buttons and how they interact on there. But you can see, like, out of the gate here, we're switching video already. You know what I mean? Like, you plug it in, it's an appliance, it works, there's no software, there's nothing. You just plug it in and you're there. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to create a quick little thing here so that you can see what this looks like. Let me just do, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll do it on this one. Bear with me for 1 second. You know what I'll do is I'll put this up on screen so you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, so it makes more sense. So what we're going to do is go to my multi-viewer, and we're going to put in first camera 3. And I'm just going to crop this a bit so that we can keep just the relevant buttons visible. So we have a little more stuff we can work with here. And let's crop that in like that, and we'll just bring down, oops, a little too far there. And we'll bring in this one down like that. There we go. And I'm just going to move it over here to the corner. And then for our second overlay, we're going to have HDMI 4. And I always do this backwards because my old system was reversed. So we're going to, I didn't want to do it that way. Let's see. So we're going to have 3 be on top here. Sorry, everybody. And I'm just going to remember 339291. Screw it. All right, so let's go back to overlay 2. I'm just going to reset these things. Sorry, everybody. I got to just do one thing real quick here. So we're going to go back to multi-view. And this one is going to be 4 and then 3 on top of that. And we're just going to crop out the sides of it here. That way you can see what I'm doing. And do that. And I just have to reposition the other one. And do that. And we'll move this over here. And then I'll reset the other one. I have the position reset here. Okay. And this is immediately not going to look decent because, so I need to like zoom out that other one. So let me just do that real quick. There's always something that I mean to do before I start, and this today is that thing that I neglected to do. So let's just reset this, and I'm just going to zoom it out and put it over here. So at least you can see what's going on. And then if we need to, we can zoom back in closer to it. So I'll put that here, and then the unit itself, we'll just zoom down a little bit and kind of move it over here. I think it'll make sense. At least you can see it and what's going on. All right, that's good enough for now. Okay, so you can see my hands down here, and then if we switch, and this is the program output. Now what's cool is that right now it's set to multi-viewer. And then if I go over to 1, you can see that is program out. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That is not program out. That is camera 1. But if I do program here and then I switch, see that? Now, the only issue, though, is that I've got this green bar on the top of that HDMI input. It might be coming from my camera. So I got to troubleshoot that a little bit. Let me unplug the camera here and plug it back in again. Because that's a little weird, isn't it? Because I'm not seeing it when I unplug the source. So I think my camera might be introducing that. Yeah, I'll have to play around with that. And then what I think I'll do too is bring in another camera, because I do have another camera next to me here. And I can just plug that in. Not really important to have a third camera. I think we can get the gist here, but what's cool, I like this, that you can, again, just like change how that HDMI works here just by adjusting things around here. That's really cool. And if we go to 2, yeah, so that green thing must be coming from that camera. I got to just play around with that a bit. This camera I usually bring in with NDI. So I don't usually use the HDMI on it, but I think it's probably a result of the setting that it's on and the setting that the switcher is on. So I think if we change some things around here, that'll probably work better. So we're just going to plug this in here. And let's turn the camera on real quick. And we'll get a third camera into the mix, hopefully. Let's see. Hopefully I take the lens cap off, right? So there you go. So we've got 3 cameras. And we'll go to program mode here. Yeah, so that one doesn't have the green bar at the top. So I think there's something going on with that other camera. I just have to have to troubleshoot that. And I'm actually bringing that camera someplace tomorrow. Partly why I'm playing with this today is I need to go someplace to help somebody with a stream tomorrow. So that's what I'm doing there. All right, so there we go. So someone's asking what this is. This is the ATEM Mini Pro. And right now we're just kind of getting it set up. I literally just took it out of the box. So we got that going. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the Ethernet into the back here and get it on the network. And why we're doing this is because we are going to connect this up to my PC, or my Mac actually. And what we need to do, let me pull this screen up here, is we need to grab the latest software. So on top of this thing working as a hardware device, there's a whole slew of software that goes with it. That's part of the deal. So we're going to just grab the Mac OS X version here and get that installed. And I'll just download that and install that. So we're going to let that download here for a minute. And when that's done, we will get the rest of this going. So pretty cool stuff so far. Yes, we got a lot of stuff plugged into it. It's on the network. Yeah, so it's, you know, it should be about $549 or so. I think that's the retail on this one, and then the other one is like $349. So this costs like $200 more. And beyond the streaming stuff, it's the same device. So there isn't that much of a difference between this one and the regular one, minus the fact that you've got the ability to do all your streaming off of this. And it gets complicated because you have to figure out exactly what the need is. So if you are, for example, if you are going to use, let's say, Zoom, for example, you're going to need the USB port on here connected to the PC to bring the video in. And if you do that, you can't record locally because the USB port is occupied by the computer connection, right? Kind of one of these balancing acts. I don't think you can RTMP into Zoom. I might be incorrect about that. But what it does out the Ethernet here is like straight up RTMP. All right, so what I'm going to do real quick here, I'm just installing the software. And we're going to get that going. So I want to just play around with some of the features that are unique to this one. It can do some other cool stuff. So while we're installing software, if you want to see some things that it can do, so I'll have a program going out here. It does have a picture-in-picture thing. And right now, like because we haven't installed the software, we don't have a lot of room to play with different PMP stuff just yet. So you got that. You can do fades between stuff. I think it's just loading on the Nintendo Switch there. You can do stuff like having a like an auto fade here. So once this comes back, I'm waiting for the Switch to do something. So you can do, there we go. All right, so what we could do here, for example, is we could fade between 1 and 2. Nice, isn't that cool? That's all hardware. And again, we're just using the buttons feel different. They feel less rubbery, by the way, on the Pro. So you can do stuff like that. I think if we do the picture-in-picture, I forget how you can set which device you want to PMP. I got to remember how to do all this stuff here. So right now I've had it set to mix so I could have it do, you know, like a fade up to dip to color. I can do one of these push effects. You could do something like this. And again, this is all in hardware. And what's funny is like back when I was a kid, like playing around at the local cable access station, like they had this super expensive analog video switcher that would do everything that this thing does for a couple $100. It does chroma key, it does green, you know, the green screen stuff. It does it all, built right in. And we did this, we covered all this in the review that we did earlier. So it's super, super helpful there. I got a comment from Bobby Fearman in the chat on Amazon. I unfortunately I don't work for Amazon, so I cannot help you with customer service issues. I apologize for that. And there you go. You can see how that works. Okay, so now I'm going to just install the software on my Mac here. So bear with me for a second on that. And we'll get that going. So I had the software installed already, but this is the new version of it. So I think it might have a firmware update. We'll find out. And we'll see where it goes. Patrick Chang, Keegan Bainey just got theirs for live streaming, and oh good, this is perfect timing for you. Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of the live streaming with it. I'll send it out to my extras channel. We'll see how that goes, because we already are streaming to the main channel at the moment. Patrick Chang says, had the regular ATEM Mini for a little while, but returned it. Overkill for what I needed, but the software is great. It all depends what you need, you know, and I think what's nice about this is that I think for a lot of folks, you know, like vMix or OBS is fine, but if you're looking for simplicity, like let's say you have like a church or a synagogue or a mosque or something where you just, you know, you're not going to have a trained person there all the time. What's nice about this is that, as you saw, we haven't even touched the software yet. And out of the box, I've got different sources plugged in. Again, we got to figure out what's going on with the other camera over there. I have different sources plugged in, and I'm able to switch between them. And if I had configured the live streaming, I could hit this on-air button and just stream out to YouTube right now if I wanted to. So I think that's what's really neat about this, is that, you know, if you've got a really, you know, uncomplicated thing you got to do, and, you know, you just want to have a couple of cameras plugged in as a source and just switched on them, boom, you're done, you know. So and then if you are looking to do something more higher end, you can use this now as a more advanced switching device. And check it out, you get the multi-viewer. So we have the stream, so it looks like it's got your 4 camera previews down below. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 there, camera 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the lower right-hand corner are your audio levels, so you can monitor audio levels in the multi-viewer. And then you've got your recording stuff there, and then it looks like the streaming one as well, or the reverse, one or the other, but you get the idea. So it's super convenient. Now this is not going to be as good as a TriCaster or even vMix. Like, so somebody just asked about vMix in the on the thing here, and vMix is certainly going to be better for that, but you could actually use this with vMix. So for example, this could be your video input. In fact, I am inputting right now into vMix over the HDMI output. And what we're going to play with in a minute, once the software is installed, is using this actually. I think I'll try to load up Zoom and see if I can get it to ingest there, because I do have a little project tomorrow that we need to experiment with using Zoom. And so what I would do with Zoom is, just as Patrick Chang said in the chat, is I would hook it up with the USB cable. And so what it'll do, so let me put this on program here. So we'll go to program. So what it will do is, if you output with the USB cable to the computer, this will become your webcam. So everything that's going on screen here, so if I go to my auto effect here, this is what Zoom would see in the upper right-hand corner of this view here, is you would be able to switch between your sources, all the audio mixing in, all that would work. But what you can't do, I might be incorrect about this, but so far that's what it seems to be the case. What you can't do is you can't record and run out to the computer at the same time unless you use the HDMI with a video input of some kind. I think that's what it seems to me at the moment. All right, so the software is installed, and I may have to reboot the computer. Let's see. It's a pretty involved software installation, by the way. All right, so let's quit this. I think what I need to do is actually connect this to the Mac here first. So we're going to grab the USB cable, and I'm just going to plug it into the USB out here. And I got a very short, it doesn't come with the USB-C cable, by the way, so you're going to need to order one of those. And I'm just going to plug it into the Mac here. So let me show you just out of the gate, and let me get Zoom going here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Give me 1 second. I'll show you how Zoom is going to work on here. I just have to update Zoom. So again, it's going to show up as a webcam, which is great. But I love stuff that just works out of the box, right? Like we just plugged this thing in, we took a bunch of cameras and plugged them in, plugged in the Nintendo Switch here, and like as you can see, we've got, you know, we got stuff going here. This is right out of it. No fuss, no muss, just plug it in. And then when you want to do the fancier stuff, you need the software. So let's just continue here. Give me 1 second, I have to update my Zoom before we do anything else here. So let me just do that real quick. And we'll get that going. And all right, so the software is installed. So let's load Zoom up. And okay, so what I'm going to do real quick here, I'm just going to go into my preferences. Bear with me. Okay, so here's how easy it is with Zoom. So I'm going to pull up my MacBook screen here. So right now I've got the webcam on the computer, okay? And oh, it's making me look bad already. So maybe I need to do a little bit more here. Hang on a second, because it's not showing me the, okay, so this is actually good for tomorrow because I'm actually going someplace tomorrow and I need to have this thing working. So give me 1 second. I think there might need to be some configuration here of that USB port. So bear with me for 1 second. I just want to see if QuickTime is seeing it as a camera. Yeah, so it's not showing up as a camera on either thing here. Let's just do this one more time here. Oh, I didn't have it plugged in all the way. That's probably why. Okay, so hang on. There it is. Okay. Although it's still not showing as a camera, just showing as a microphone. Here, I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So I just have QuickTime up right now to see if it shows up as a... So I'm seeing the microphone option, but not the output option. So I think what we have to do is do a little configuration. So let me quit QuickTime real quick. And I'm going to go over to the ATEM software. Bear with me for a second here. Blackmagic ATEM switchers. And let's go to ATEM setup. And I think, okay, yep, here we go. So let me pull this up for you all to see. Let me minimize Zoom here. Okay, so we have update available. Let's update it. Ooh, it's got a fan. Little fan just kicked on. The other one doesn't have a fan that I could hear. And we'll let that run real quick. So Adam Paulos asks a very funny question. It's a good question, though. What did I go to school for? So I went to school for communications. And then when I got out of school, I worked in my family business doing IT work. But I was a communications major. I did a lot of TV production in college. So this was always a hobby. And what was great about living in the future, in the 21st century, is that you could start doing video production at home and find an audience. And so this kind of began, and it was a whole bunch of other things that I've done related to this, but this kind of began as like a hobby. And then it turned into a job. But I always had a real love for this stuff. In fact, I'm just looking for a cable for my camera. When I was a kid, I actually had a little cable access TV show for a while. And here it is. And so it was something that I really loved doing. And it was great to be able to take all the things that I'm just plugging my camera in. It was great to be able to take all the things that I love to do and kind of encapsulate them into this channel. And what I used to do kind of as a hobby anyhow was just play around with technology all the time. So to be able to monetize the hobby has turned into a very fun job for me. So I really enjoy what I do. And it's not something that, it's something that really, I think anybody, if they put the time in, could do. It's not easy, but I didn't start looking for an audience. I just started, playing around with stuff, and then the audience kind of came. So that was kind of how the whole thing came about. And then you get to a point where you get an idea as to what the audience is looking for, and one thing kind of leads to the other. Okay, so let me show you what I'm looking at here. This is the setup screen, and I have it on DHCP right now, so I'm just going to make note of its IP address because that is going to be important for connecting the switching software. So it's 236 right now is what the address was that it was assigned. And then this is an important one right here, the switching mode. So program preview is a little different than just pushing the button. So let me show you what happens when I save this. It's going to go in and update the switcher. And what you're going to see when the switcher comes back to us is, see how that's green? And let me show you this on the multi-view, what that means. So let me get my thing repositioned here. And let's go back to our 2-up. So now what you'll see, because we put it in program preview, and this is why you want the multi-view. And what's funny is the other one did this, but you couldn't see what was in preview. So right now, oh, look at that, oh, something's going wacky. What is going on over there? Okay, so that is weird. Okay, so by the way, that firmware update fixed the problem with camera 1. So what was happening before was when I pushed the button, it would switch. You saw both of those windows switching. But now we have program and preview set up. So if I get number 2 here, so 2 is the Nintendo Switch, program out is still just the camera. And I can basically switch here and get one queued up. So what you can do is kind of have a shot ready to go. And then if I push cut, that will swap them. So now Animal Crossing is programmed. So if we were streaming right now, Animal Crossing would be on the stream. And then if I push cut here again, it goes back to the camera. See how that works? And then, and I could say, and so one of the things I'm doing tomorrow is we're going to experiment mixing a PTZ camera with a fixed camera so that we can switch. So I could do here is say, okay, get ready camera 2, switch to 2. And then while camera 1 is off air, I can zoom it in. And then because it's in preview, now it's programmed. Okay, so-and-so is talking. Great, 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 great. Get ready camera 2, cut to 2, and then bring camera 1 back out to our other shot. And then I could do a dissolve back, for example. Or I could have camera 3 queued up and have that as a safe shot, for example, and have that going there. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do when you have this set up in that mode. But this could be a little confusing to people because just pushing the button now doesn't do anything other than get that video loaded up in preview. And this is why the multi-viewer is so important. So again, the other one would work where you could have stuff loaded in preview, but you couldn't actually see anything. So now you can see everything, which is great on this one. So that's why this works. And let's see what else we have here. So I'm just going to go back to the setup screen here. So this is what we saw before. And then I'm guessing this, oh, this is, okay, so this is the software control. So in addition to being able to work on it with your fingers here, you can also use it on the screen. So for example, I can switch live here between these. And what's cool is that if you put this on a Windows, like a Windows tablet, you can actually just touch the screen with your fingers and use it this way. So the way these switchers typically work, you can actually buy a switcher that looks just like this. This is kind of the personification, or the, I forgot what the word is, but you know what I'm talking about. This is what it looks like if you had a physical switcher. So by pushing the program button here, watch this, I'm going to just show you overhead here. As I push the button on the software, as you can see, it's changing the live camera. And then typically your preview is on a separate row. So you get your preview button pushed, and as I'm pushing preview here, you can see those numbers changing. So all the stuff that I'm doing here on the computer is impacting what's happening on the switcher. And some of the more advanced stuff like chroma key and the green screen stuff, all that you're going to want to use the software for. But you have the option, you can use it hardware-wise just by pushing the buttons. So you get it all set up and then just use the hardware buttons. Or you can use it with the computer, or both. And what's cool is that you could have somebody kind of loading in graphics or doing other stuff. So it's kind of neat because this is just connecting over, over IP or USB, and that's what's so cool about this. All right, so let's go over to the output option here, and this is, again, what's different. So let's see what record stream does. So right now that is off. Live stream is off, and we can configure where this is going to go. So you have Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. So the question is, though, can you do an RTMP on this? And I'm going to defer to my experts who have this already, because it looks like it's just these three, but typically there should be like an advanced option for running out to RTMP services. Interesting. And then we have the ability to capture video. That's with the desktop video app. That's from before as well. You have a timecode generator here as well. Cool stuff. So I'm going to have to set up. I'm going to set up a quick YouTube stream in a minute. Thank you, Alex, for your kind words. That is appreciated. Zan wants to know if this would work with the Stream Deck. I think it will. I think the HDMI, you just output the HDMI here, and you could send it anywhere, really. The question is why I'm not seeing it showing up as a webcam now. So let me go back to my. I got a million things on my desk here. I'm going to go back to the Zoom software real quick. I'm just looking. Oh, here's some more settings. If you want to see some more settings here, so let me pull this up for you. So here you can change the video mode. So it looks like it only does 1080p, which is fine. Right now it's set to 60. I could turn it down to 30. So you have those options. You can also, it looks like, set the multi-view as well at a different thing there. That's pretty cool. I wonder if I went to 1080p 30 if it would give me different options. This might do something, so let's see what happens here when I set it. So I'm probably going to lose, yep, just reset my connection there. And luckily my video system didn't reset itself. So let's go back to that gear icon and see if we have new options. Yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't let you change what the multi-viewer is set to, unless I maybe change it to that. Yeah, it doesn't look like it does anything. Now the funny thing is my camera's back to acting wacky again. I bet you that's something related to the HDMI output on that camera. But this one's still working, okay. And the switch is still going. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to play around a little bit more with this. I'm going to put it back at 60 for now. And we'll give that a second to reinitialize. Okay, so now let's go back to that gear icon again. You can split audio into separate mono channels. Here's the multi-viewer. So the multi-viewer, you can customize this as well, I think. And you can have the audio levels showing up here too. And you can label the cameras if you want. We don't have a hyperdeck, but if you had a hyperdeck, you could start and stop recording from here. So you have that. And what I need to do now, let me go back and see if Zoom is seeing it as a camera now that we've reset it. So let me go back into Zoom preferences, video. There it goes. Okay, so, oh, that's interesting. So let me show you this real quick. So if I go over here to Blackmagic, again, we're in the Zoom settings, right? But it shows up as a webcam. And there you go. So I'm pushing buttons on the switcher. And so if we were to broadcast out a Zoom meeting right now, everything that I'm doing inside of the little switcher here goes out over your Zoom call. Pretty cool. Isn't that cool? So there you go. And this would work, you know, with Skype or anything else because it's showing up as a webcam. That's all you need. So even if, because right now the HDMI is currently this, but what we're getting out of the Zoom call is just the program output. So that's how that works. So if we go back to the zoom thing here, I got too many computers on my desk. I don't know what I'm pushing. So I go back out to the zoom thing here. Right? So you get a very different view. And that's the big difference on the Pro, because the Pro has this and the non-Pro doesn't. So there you go. Yep, you can do picture-in-picture. So I can turn this back on again. And we got that going. The big thing with picture-in-picture is that you got to really configure stuff. As you can see, it's very little. So we got to configure that over here. That's my only gripe with the base settings on the buttons. And I had this problem before, which is that the picture-in-picture is really tiny. And there is a way to set it up. I got to go back and remember how to do all this now. So if we go back to palettes, upstream key 1, DVE, and I can set the fill source, so I can set camera 2. So you can see how it switched over to Animal Crossing. Let me move this over so you can see it a little better. So now it's Animal Crossing, and I could boost the size up here a bit. Let's grab it this way. And then position. So you can see how that works. But seems like it's working fine, again, over USB. And that's been my only issue, is that for whatever reason, and I might just be missing something really obvious, but I could never figure out how to get the switcher to remember the setting for the hardware button. Because watch what happens here. So I'm going to just turn off the picture-in-picture. So here's the button here. So I'm going to turn off, and actually if I move it, you see how it goes right back, oh, sorry, there it goes. See how it goes back to small again? Like it doesn't retain for the button here, it doesn't retain the picture-in-picture setting. And that's been like my biggest gripe with this thing. So there you go. Now, again, it can record, but if you record, you lose the ability to use it as a webcam, as I understand it. It's like you can either plug the hard drive in, so we'll plug in this little hard drive now. So you either have the option to plug in the hard drive or nothing at all. So let's unplug. We're going to unplug the thing here. And I don't think you have any settings for the recording here either. So I'm going to plug the hard drive in. This is an exFAT formatted drive. So we got that plugged in. Again, it's just plugged right into the USB-C port. And now that disk light is green. And let me hit the record button. And that's going to start recording what is on air. So right now I've got this camera on. I'm just going to show you what I'm recording here. And then I'm going to queue up Animal Crossing here. And we're going to do an auto fade to Animal Crossing and auto fade back. And you can see we've got right on the multi-viewer the health of the recording that's going on here. Now what's interesting is that it's actually got two recording things there. I think it also tells you how much time is left on the recording as well. I'm pretty sure it's telling us that. I can't see it too well. All right, so now I'm going to stop recording. I'm just going to push the stop button. And now it's green. And I'm guessing now that I can safely remove the hard drive from the back of the switcher here. And now what I'm going to do is just plug it into my Mac, and let's see if we have a file waiting for us on there. So give me a second here to pull this up. And we'll go to our T7 drive here. Yeah, so here, let me pull this up for you to see. So here we go. We just dropped a file called Untitled, 57 megabytes. And I am streaming this screen over USB, over Wi-Fi right now, so it may be a little touchy. But this is what we just did. So this is the recording that's playing off the hard drive that was plugged in. Yep, seems to be working fine. Cool. So that's how the recording works. So there you go. Salmonic says you could use vMix Capture webcam and use vMix Virtual webcam. Yeah, yep, that's another option. You could use vMix as a webcam, so you could output over NDI or something if you wanted to do that. You'd have to have an NDI. This doesn't do NDI though, so you have to have an NDI box to connect to it over that HDMI. All right, so the next thing I want to try is I want to stream to my extras channel, and I'm trying to think of the best way that we can do this. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to pick up some sound also. So I'm going to take my camera that I've got out here, and I'm just going to grab audio from this camera. So we're going to go and turn off, I got to remember how to do this now. I think I can turn off this audio input here and just grab the internal mic. Oh, here it is, off. Okay, so now, yep, so I'm picking up audio. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab audio from this camera and we're going to stream this out. And I have to go to my extras channel real quick and just configure everything. So this is going to take a second. But if you go to my secondary channel, Lon.TV/extras, you know what I'll do is I will create a short URL or something. Let me just get this quit here. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll just show you it working. How's that? That might be easier. So I'm going to go back to my other browser. And I'm going to go to YouTube. And I got to look into whether or not this thing supports RTMP or not. Because again, right now it's just asking me for the key for YouTube and not giving me an RTMP option. And you would think it should support that. So we'll have to see. So Patrick says there is another device out there called the AV Matrix, the HVS0401. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing more of these lower priced switchers coming out. I did get one in. We did a live stream a few weeks ago of another one. It was like from a company called ATEN, ATEN is the name of the company. And it just wasn't good. You know, like I wasn't comfortable recommending it. I just didn't think it wasn't as easy to set up. It had some really weird configuration options. Like I just couldn't get it to do even the simple stuff that this one does much better. It had some things that this one doesn't do, but I was like, you know, I think people might just end up using, you know, something a little bit more effective. All right, so I just need to get the software connected via 236. So we're going to connect to the ATEM Pro here over the network. So now I've got that connected. I'm just setting up my stream key right now, so which is a private key, so I don't want to share that with you. I love you all, but you know. So I'm going to put this in here. And then I've got some options for streaming. And because I'm already streaming, I'm going to do the low here. And I can't stream out. I'm just looking at my options here. I can't stream this out at a lower bit rate. I'm going to switch over to, I'm just going to switch my video to 1080p 30. And the reason is that I don't want to kill this stream. So I don't have like great upstream bandwidth, as you all hear me talk about. However, okay, so that's much more reasonable. So it looks like, and I'm just reading this from the screen, so you're going to have to take my word for it. It looks like it'll do a low setting at 3 megabits per second. And I'm doing 2.5 right now, so that's about what my connection can handle right this minute. So, all right, so we're good. So now what I'm going to do is go to my live dashboard, and we're going to, so we're going to call this one ATEM Mini Pro Temp Stream. All right, Temp ATEM Mini Pro Stream. Okay, so let me show you what is on screen here. So this is my live control panel for the extras channel. And I've got this set right now to unlisted. And I'm going to now, let me show you the button I'm going to push here. I'm going to push on air. That's a great button. And so now I push the button, and it's going to connect to YouTube, or presumably. Yep, look at that, it's starting up. And it should get started here in a second. And then as this is going, it's going to show me my upstream bit rate. And yeah, we're all good. So yeah, you can actually monitor your upstream bit rate right on the system here. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the audio on camera 3. So I'm going to hit the, let me give you my 2 up here so you can see what's going to happen here. So I'm going to turn on audio for camera 3. And now you can see those things jumping up there. And if somebody was watching the stream, they would see the audio levels bounce on the camera here. And then I can go in and start switching around. So what I'm going to do is give you a view of the output from the stream here. So you can see that moving around. Hear that? So there's the audio, and then what I can do here is, then I can just do some cuts here. So we can go back to camera 1, and now I'm switching here. It'll take a minute for YouTube to catch up, but you'll see it now happen as I'm doing this. So now Animal Crossing is front and center. See that? And then it'll switch. Yes, the only issue I'm having is my PTZ Optics HDMI output. I have to play around with that a little bit. But other than that, it looks like it's streaming just fine. And then what you're seeing here on the lower section of the on-air is it's doing it at 3 megabits per second. And that's right out of the box. So this thing is doing all the streaming, everything's going out the door. And then if I hit off here, that will terminate the stream. And you'll see on YouTube here, it will, once the stream runs out, the buffer runs out, it's now offline, and the stream's complete. Pretty cool. That's it, offline. How about that? So it works. So that's pretty neat. Dan asks, to record, why not stream out to an HDMI record box and put it in between the ATEM out and the monitor? You could do that as well. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, right? So one way, here, let me pull this back up here, the 2 up. So one way is you can record, you know, with a USB drive attached. Another way is you run through the HDMI output and you run to a recorder and then out to something else. So that's another way you could do it. I think the value of this device is that it's all in one. So if you're bringing in extra devices for streaming or recording or whatever, then you may not need the Pro. So the Pro really is giving you the multi-viewer that you see and the ability to stream out and record if you have a drive attached. And that's kind of the main advantages to it. Now what's also cool though is you can control what the HDMI gets. So right now we were on the multi-viewer. So you almost have 2 switchers in here. So one is to switch the program, and the other is actually to switch what the HDMI port is out there. So the other thing you could do is you could stream out something via the program and then have the HDMI kind of act as an ISO recorder, as they call them. So for example, if I push 3 here, camera 2 is the active program output at the moment. But this panel controls what the HDMI is outputting. So you could stream out something different than what the HDMI is outputting, and you have a choice. So you could have it be any of the 4 cameras, the multi-viewer, or giving you the program output. But I think a lot of people who are using this, you know, in a somewhat pro-level environment probably would want the multi-viewer out there. Bill, I didn't make that stream public. That's why you didn't see it there. I didn't want to confuse people that were watching. So that's that. Yeah, this is pretty neat. So I got to figure out though why that PTZ camera is acting up. So I'm just going to disconnect its HDMI real quick and plug it back in here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's still all funky, and it was working a minute ago, right? It was functional, and then it stopped functioning. Let me turn the camera off and turn it back on again. This is the remote control for that camera. Now, the other thing you can see here is that because this is a hardware device, there's not a lot of like issues when you disconnect things. They just come back up. It's pretty simple, more or less. So that's kind of cool. John Early with a super chat, thank you very much, saying that Nintendo is acknowledging Joy-Con drift after all these years. Yeah, I haven't had that problem with my Switch, believe it or not. Okay, it looks like when the camera came back up, we're getting the proper image now, so that's good. This concerns me, though, because tomorrow I'm bringing this camera with the intent of using the HDMI output on it with this ATEM. So I'm like worried that it's going to do that again. And I'm not sure what I did to cause it, because remember, it was working fine a minute ago. And then it kind of jumped back to where we were. Because what I'm doing is I'm helping out some folks who are looking for a simple streaming solution. And I like this solution because they can stream this out to Zoom just using the USB, because they want to use Zoom for this project. And I think this is going to do it for them. Yeah, it seems to be working better now. And if you're curious as to what exactly that camera is, this is the back of it. Let me pull the. I'll show you on camera 3, and I will cut the 3 just so you can see it. So this is the camera. This is the PTZ Optics camera, and you can control it with its remote control. You can control it with software. It's super cool. We used this for that high school graduation the other day, and PTZ Optics, in full disclosure, sent this to us free of charge a while back. But I get a lot of use out of this. It's super handy. And what's cool is that it can operate all out of its HDMI connection. So this thing supports, the camera supports power over Ethernet. So I'm going to get it zoomed out here. The camera supports power over Ethernet. But look at this. It's doing, I think that camera might need a firmware update, because check it out. It's doing, oops, I'm like too many different video devices. It's doing that, that green bar again. It's almost like it's zooming the image in. See how it's all distorted? So that's something related to the HDMI output. I got to mess around with that a little bit more. And I think I have it set to a 1080p 30 output. And that's what this is set at right now also. So I don't know if there's some crazy thing going on. But yeah, the PTZ cameras can be pricey, this one in particular. I think if you get the NDI version, which is what this one is, it's like $2,500, so it's a bit on the pricier side. But I'm actually worried about this distortion now. But it does have an update. There is a firmware update for it, so I'm going to run that tonight before I go over there. Because you see how distorted that image looks? And like I said, I usually use this as a NDI camera. But it's just odd that it works fine for a little bit, and then it like does that wacky. And there's a lot of settings inside the camera here too, so you can really dial it in. So I got to just play with this a little bit more. And I haven't updated the firmware on this in a long time either, so that could be what's going on too. Yeah, we gotta fix that. There's a hardware switch on the bottom for setting the mode. So yeah, this is cool. But this actually is surprisingly easy. I was expecting to have a much more in-depth, problem solving, troubleshooting, whatever you want to call it. But it seems to work. And then if we wanted to go back on air again, I could just hit the on air button, and it will start shooting video back to YouTube again. So I just hit the on air, and there you go. Starting back up again. Give it a second. And yeah, it's back up. It says it's live. So simple as that. And then if I hit off, so I'll hit off, and that will go off, and it will end the stream. Boom. So I got to look and see if it supports RTMP. So I got to look at that. Patrick Chang says, can you stream and record to USB at the same time? That is a good question, and we didn't check that. So let's do that real quick. So let's pop out the drive. I believe the answer to your query is yes. But let me pull up the 2-up view here, and we will take a look. So we're going to pop out the USB and pop it into the back of it here. All right, so we got that connected. Now we've got to wait for that green light to come on. Okay, so the drive is installed. Green light is on. And you can see that the recording is set to stop. So we're going to hit record. And then we're going to hit on air. And yeah, you can do both. My daughter is like, I have a 7-year-old, and she loves Animal Crossing. It's something we do every night now. It's our evening ritual. We go in and check on our island. And we've been doing a lot of work on our island. We're bringing in a lot of people, or a lot of animals, I guess. And the next stage is we have to bring in this musician, and then when we bring the musician in, we can start putting like sidewalks down and stuff. So, but yeah, it looks like it's doing just fine here. And I'll pull up the larger image here. I'm guessing that second record option is probably for a like for the Stream Deck or something if you're connecting to it. I can't see exactly what that says right now, so I have a hard time figuring out exactly what that is. But yeah, it looks like it's working. And then I don't think this supports the PTZ camera that I have, but a lot of the, what I find really cool about these ATEM mini products is that all of the stuff that the more expensive devices do, this does. So if you have one of their cameras, you can control everything on their cameras remotely using the software, which I think is awesome. So you have your, all of your color correction or color settings, your iris settings, the zoom, everything it looks like you can control here. I got to see. I don't think you can control other PTZ cameras on this. I'll have to look and see if that's an option. Let's take a look real quick. I'm just going to make sure I don't... Oh, maybe it does. So, okay. Oh, I see. We don't have the RS422 control port, so it looks like maybe we can't do those things. But you can control the hyperdecks if you have a hyperdeck on your network. These are solid-state disk recorders. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It does get a bit warmer than the other one does, so I will say that. But I'm not hearing the fan come on. Actually, I wonder if you can control some of this stuff. Let's take a look and see. Here, let me get camera. I know I'm going to screw something up here. Yeah, I'm not seeing any changes. I'm moving this around. I'm not seeing it change anything. I wouldn't expect it to. Yeah, so this doesn't do anything. But it's cool. At least, if you had, their cameras on your network, you could do more with it. So yeah, this is again, it's all good stuff. And how do I get back to, back to switcher, here we go. And you have, but I forgot to mention this, and I covered all this in the other video, but you have, some pretty good audio controllers here too. And somebody said there was a way to control the delay on this, but I don't see that. I don't think you can, so you have input. Oh, maybe, is that what this is? Well, it might be it right here, huh? Let's take a look. I'm not sure what these, this might be just regular gain, right? So I don't think you can control the audio delay. If you can, that's a real win. But I don't think that's possible. Maybe somebody can correct me. Oh, okay, so on mic 1 and 2, oh, I see, look at that. Okay, yep, I missed that. Okay, so if I go back to, let me go back to the screen here. Right under the knob. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's awesome. So just so everyone knows, I used a, is this only on the Pro or can the other one do it also? So when I first got started doing this YouTube thing, I was using the original ATEM television studio. Now that was $1,000. It was the most finicky switcher you could find because it was either 1080i or 720p, no mixing of formats. It was really, it was complicated. And it didn't have any built-in delay. And everything you wanted to attach to it, you had to buy. So I had to get this really expensive analog to digital converter. It was a whole big project. This has it all like built in. So that's awesome. You can set the delay on. This is going to be perfect for my project tomorrow because we have to bring in audio from an audio board. Well, that is cool. So I could just go in and just adjust the audio delay on this. That is super cool. I have to figure out how to do that. But that's great that it's got that. That's really good. So I guess I could just turn on that input. I'm still broadcasting out to the other one here too. So we'll just turn off that and hit the end of the recording. Oops. Hit both buttons on the thing there to stop. Yep, there we go. So that's super cool that that works. I'm guessing if I have that mic enabled, so if I go to turn mic, let's turn on mic 1 here. And I'll go back to that screen. I'm just curious how to get that setting there. But this is really, yeah, so this is how you would do it. So the delay is really important. This is the number of frames, so you can delay up to 8 frames of audio. And the reason why this is important is that your analog audio will come over sometimes faster than the video due to processing. So if the video is delayed by 3 or 4 frames or 8 frames, you'll see a bit of a difference in the lip syncing. So you can get the audio, this is awesome, it's built right in. You can adjust the audio delay using this setting to get exactly things synchronized up. So that's awesome. So that's really cool. And I'm guessing, so wow, so this even works on the Mini. That's what's amazing. Like that little Mini does so much more than my first ATEM did for a third of the price. And if you think about it, so I bought the original ATEM I bought back in 2014. I was using it in 2014, 2013. Did I have it in 2012? I can't remember. I had it about 7 or 8 years ago, let's put it that way. And it was, everything that you just saw here was all separate hardware. Audio input was a separate piece of hardware. Initially you couldn't bring in audio over HDMI, which was why I needed that separate hardware. They eventually added that feature, I remember that now. But the audio delay was not, you'd have to buy a delay box, an actual piece of hardware to do that. Patrick Chang says those different HDMI sources have different delays, and they would, yeah. I mean, it's possible. You know, it depends on how fast the camera is able to process the image and spit it back out. I have found, like, the Canon and Sony cameras are pretty good. I haven't really found too many issues with those, but there's always, who knows, right? So that's it. But yeah, Bill Butler, it's only 8 frames. So if you have something that's longer than 8 frames, it looks like it's not going to do that for you. 8 looks like the max. But the fact that it has it at all is really good. So that's cool. Hello, Tech Flood. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, this is pretty cool. So I'm impressed with this, though. I think this is a really handy little device. I could see this being, you know, if you are one of these, you know, event firms that does the video stuff for events and stuff, like this is really, you know, I think this is going to be really helpful, right? You can do your stream right out of the gate. Just keep it plugged into the network. Now, it doesn't have Wi-Fi. Keep that in mind. There's no Wi-Fi on it. But you, let's disconnect the network real quick. There's no Wi-Fi on it, so you do need to have it connected to Ethernet. But you could, of course, find some bridge device to do that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. TechFlow was wondering if I have any update on my Comcast situation. I do. In fact, tomorrow's wrap-up will have an update. I talked to them on Friday. It looks like it's happening. So, you know, I think we're going to get it. And that will allow us to stream out at a higher resolution, higher bit rate. It will probably allow for me to do, I'm going to stop my recording here. It'll probably allow me to do the recordings at 4K. So, and it'll improve my workflow. So that'll be good. Salmonic says, how would you stream over mobile data? So that's always a mixed bag. You could, I'm thinking out loud here, you would need some way to get this connected to the mobile device because it lacks Wi-Fi. So there actually are routers out there that allow you to plug in one of those little wireless modem things to that, so you could do one of those. A live view box would be good because you really want to, especially when you go out in the field like that, you want you need something that's going to give you some reliability. So live view is good. I tested the Teradek VidU Go, and that was another cool device. I haven't tried the live view, but the Teradek was pretty cool. And so what it has is an option. It's expensive, but you can plug in 2 cellular connections to it. So you could have like one on Verizon, one on AT&T. It has Ethernet, so you could plug in the local network, and it does Wi-Fi. So we did a test. We had it running with local Wi-Fi on a Comcast connection, and then I had 2 cellular connections with it. And there's a service that goes with it, so you do have to pay for the service, but the service is very reasonable. And what it would do is basically kind of balance the load across multiple connections, and then the service kind of puts all the data packets back together again. Really slick. And then what we did also out in the field was we had, because the VidU supported Wi-Fi, we had it connect to my iPhone on Verizon while still using the 2 built-in cellular modems. That was pretty cool. So I thought that was neat. Chris Allegretta asked a funny question about my Rocket League rank. Believe it or not, the only time we play Rocket League is when we do the videos. So that's partly why I don't boost that much. But that's a good point about boosting during the capture, because that would show more potential lags. I'm going to talk to Jake about doing that. But I don't play it that often. I enjoy the game. I just for whatever reason, partly it's because of the kids, and like if I have time in the evening, we're playing Animal Crossing or one of the Switch games with the kids. So that's been kind of how it's been going. But that's a good point. So yeah, this is good stuff. All right. Well, I know what I've got to do now on this, and I've got to do some troubleshooting with that camera over there because I'm a little worried that it's having some trouble talking to this. But I think the problem I'm having is the setting on the bottom of that thing. So I'm going to adjust that, and we'll get that fixed on the HDMI output for tomorrow. But other than that, I think we're in good shape here. So yeah, I just wanted to get this thing set up and get a feel for it. And I'm going to have a video. So I'm going to do another video I'll do a video about this. I'm not going to redo everything I did on the original ATEM video because most of it is relevant here. The big difference is this part here. And I think there's enough to do probably 10 or 15 minutes of just this part. So we're going to discuss that and figure it out. Hank is asking, how much recording time would you get on a Samsung T5? And it's going to vary on the size of the drive. And I have the specs on this, on the recording. ATEM Mini Pro recording, because you can't set the bit rate. So it records at a fixed bit rate. I'm just looking this up real quick here. And I think my wife is coming home soon, so I got to get my act together here. ATEM Mini. Let's go pull it up real quick on the spec sheet here, and I'll get the bit rate on the recording. Okay, so it does H.264 recording only. Okay, it does. Why doesn't it tell me the? I don't know what the bit rate is. Hang on, let's see. I'm just looking through here to see what the recording bit rate is. I want to say it's 20 megabits per second. I think that's what it does. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jared. That's actually a very good point. So the bit rate for recording is what you set for streaming. So that will vary the bit rate. Now, what it will do, and I'll start recording here real quick. So if you look where it says stop. I'm going to hit the record button again. that will give you an indicator as to how much time is left. So I think, let me pull it up on my thing here. I'm just trying to see if it gives me an idea as to how much time is left on this. Give me a sec. I'm just going to pull it up on my. Yeah. So, and what's fun? Oh, it's interesting. So you know what? It actually has an option for 2 drives. So I'm guessing you could plug in a USB hub. So that's something else I got to try, because it has an option for 2 drives. Now, what's intriguing here is that it's recording, but I'm not seeing the amount of time left changing. But it looks like if you have 2 drives attached, and I'm guessing through a hub of some kind, that it would switch to the other drive when one runs out, and you can kind of just flop them back and forth. So that could be what it is. The 360 radio says, how long of a HDMI run is possible with this setup? I would guess whatever the standard HDMI cable length is what you will have here. I'm going to stop recording and see if it updates that number for us. So it's at 71022. And that number hasn't changed at all. So let me hit the stop button. And it could just be that, oh, you know what, I bet you what's happening is there's not much happening on the program output, so that might be why because remember, the bit rate's based on, it's variable. Yeah, it's just not moving, even with like stuff moving on screen here, so. Yeah, one of the things that I found with the original ATEM television studio was that it was very finicky when it came to HDMI signal strength. So what I ended up doing is I was running my HDMI cameras through HDMI splitters, which would boost the signal up a little bit. And that would sometimes give you a better image. So there you go. So yes, if you want to change the bit rate, you've got to go to the live stream settings. Here, I'll just kill off my thing there. Okay, so let me show you what I'm looking at. So what you would do here is set the streaming rate. So right now, because I'm at 1080p 30, the max bit rate for streaming is 6 megabits per second. But it looks like it can go up to 45. So I guess these are profiles like what you would set on a hyperdeck, which you can record locally at. So it looks like 45 megabits per second at 30 is the max. I see, that makes sense, right, because you could stream to a hyperdeck device, I guess, on the network. And let's switch the, let me switch the bit rate higher here, or the frames per second. Let's go to 1080p 60. And we'll set that. And so now streaming high is 9 megabits per second, given the higher frame rate. And hyperdeck high is 70. And you can see now that our record time is reduced. And then if let's change it to, now keep an eye on that number there at the bottom. So I'm going to go to streaming high, okay? See that? It changes, so it does it based on how much space is left. But like I said, it doesn't look like it's updating it as it's going. So let's try this high setting. Oh, this is interesting. Can it really do that? Record in all cameras. Can it really do that? Let's try that real quick, see what happens. So I'm just going to have it run here for a second, and let me turn this camera back on. Let me stop real quick. If it can record all the cameras plugged in at once, that's really cool. I can't see it being able to do that, but I got to be wrong about that. All right, so we got, here's what I'm doing here. We got 3 cameras going, right? So I'll stop this. And let me go and pop this over to the Mac here. Okay, so now let me pull up my Mac screen here real quick. And then I got to run because my time is running out. So I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Yeah, so I got to play around with the hub and 2 drives. Oh, look at that. It did record. Okay, so, huh. All right, I don't know what I'm looking at here. So, all right, so that's one of them here. No, it looks like it's just recording program. Yeah, it's just recording program. So I don't know what record in all cameras means. I gotta maybe it pushes a thing out to the cameras, but I have to check on that. Yeah, so I guess a USB hub you can have 2 drives and it'll jump over from one to the other. So that's pretty cool that it was able to do that, because that's something that the hyperdecks do. So usually on the hyperdeck you have 2 SSDs loaded in, and then you put both in. When drive 1 is out, it switches to drive 2. You then take out drive 1, put in a new one, and then when drive 2 finishes, it rolls back over. So that's cool. We'll have to try that out. Try that out also. So there's a lot. I got to leave some notes for myself here. This is turning out to be a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. So I will make sure I do that. Cool. All right. Well, everybody, I'm going to call it quits for a little bit because I've got to get some things ready to start cooking dinner. I'm going to get the grill going tonight. So I'm going to do that. And what I appreciate from all of you is the fact that when I'm playing with this stuff, you give me some great feedback while I am evaluating things, which helps improve the actual reviews that we do. So that's been really beneficial. John Moshe asks, if 5G home internet or Starlink is available to you, would you subscribe to those services to test for the channel? Yeah, I think Starlink I'm very interested in, so I would love to get from them a loaner. Let's say that I get my connection, I wouldn't need it. But if they have a loaner to just try it out, I'd love to try it and review it just to see what it's like. Because I'm in a good spot for it because I'm in kind of a rural area. So it should be pretty good, I think. I mean, there's a couple of, so the trick with my area is there is New Haven, which isn't far from me, and then Providence is about an hour in the other direction. So I don't know if I'm too close to those cities for them or not, but we could try it out and see. And Cedar Lake loves the videos about cameras and control. Yeah, you caught the tail end of it, but we're going to have a review of this very shortly, and I'm just going to put some notes into my Google Doc to cover in that review. Because we did so this one is very similar to the ATEM Mini, but it does add a few features that the other one doesn't have. So, namely streaming and recording. And it can do all of it right out of the box, which is awesome. So, so we need to test the USB hub for 2 drives. And I'm assuming that if that hub is connected, you still can't use it as a webcam, but you can roll one recording over to the other. That's a higher end feature to have that on a little box like this. So we'll demo the multi-view, get all sorts of stuff to show off on this thing. So that'll be a fun experiment. So cool stuff. All right, well, I got to run here, folks. I could do these streams like all night long, but I got to run. So I'm going to say goodbye to the Amazon folks. Thanks for tuning in. And I want to thank you all for watching. And I want to give a special thank you to John Early for his Super Chat contribution. I already shot the weekly wrap-up, so we'll be thanking you and shouting you out next week in the next one that we do. But the wrap-up tomorrow will be all about my new connection that I'm supposedly going to get and some of the things that we got to think about for hooking that up, because I'm on a 1 gigabit Ethernet connection all over the house. But if I get 2 gigs, then certainly that will be a big consideration here. Hank Truck wants to know, when will the session be available for rebroadcast? So I will have this, so if you go to Lon.TV/live streams, that will take you over to my playlist that I have. So these streams that I do are typically only listed as unlisted, just because I don't want to overload people's inbox or subscriber boxes with a lot of unedited stuff. So be on the lookout for that. And I will have that. Actually, I should be able to do it right now, as a matter of fact. Maybe not. But right after the stream ends, I will put it over there. And then I do the DVR feature on these. So if you rewind what you're watching right now, you should be able to go back in time to the beginning. The other thing that'll happen, if not already, is that my Twitter thing will push out a link to the stream as well. So it'll be unlisted, but you could still get to it through that link. So that is that. All right. Well, I'm going to head out now, folks, but thank you all for tuning in and allowing me to experiment with this cool piece of equipment. So yeah, good stuff. All right, everybody. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.